His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Gauri Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Shlahadadas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Jamuna Maya Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Maharani Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Brihat Madanga Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Gurun Garanga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, Chapter 2, Text 16. Before I start, it's not on the board anyway. So Judah Karmapu was scheduled to give the class this morning. He's not feeling well, so he wasn't able to make it over. So I'm just trying to fill in here. So this class will be I'd like to propose that we kind of do like a bit of an Istagosti format, because I'm not prepared, okay? Maybe I could come up with 1 or 2 thoughts, and that's about it. So please everybody listen very carefully to the translation. Let's keep the purport on the board. If there's anybody back, are you doing that? Keep the translation and the purport as much as possible on the board, so devotees can, because our memories aren't the best. So, we could see what's Prabhupada's saying, and I'll just say what I have to say, and then we'll invite discussion, and which is also good, In the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Machchita madgata prana buddhayantas parashparam gatayantas chamam nicham tushanti cha ramanti cha. The thoughts of my devotees dwell in me, their lives are surrendered unto me, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss, enlightening one another by conversing about me or discussing. So it's also bona fide. Okay, so tasmā unmāda-nāthāya. Tasmā unmāda-nāthāya. Naṣṭa-śaucāya durhṛde. Naṣṭa-śaucāya durhṛde. Dattā bata mayā sādhvī. Dattā bata mayā sādhvī. Codite parameṣṭhinā. Codite parameṣṭhinā. Tasmā unmāda-nāthāya. Naṣṭa-śaucāya durhṛde. Dattā bata mayā sādhvī. Codite parameṣṭhinā. tasmai, to him, unmāda-nāthāya, to the Lord of ghosts, naṣṭa-śaucāya, being devoid of all cleanliness, durhṛde, heart filled with nasty things, dattā, was given, bata, alas, mayā, by me, sādhvī, Satī, codite, being requested, parameṣṭhinā, by the Supreme Teacher, Brahma. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. On the request of Lord Brahmā, I handed over my chaste daughter to him. This is Dakṣa speaking. Although he is devoid of all cleanliness and his heart is filled with nasty things. Purport. If you can make that smaller so that if it's possible so people can simultaneously read it, but as much as possible the purport is on the board. Even smaller? Because everybody could read that easily. Say? Is that too small for you? Okay, make it bigger again. I'll read it. But listen carefully, okay? Before I read the purport, I just want to mention Shama Chandra. Judakar was supposed to give class, and he's not able to. He's not feeling well. So but this is going to be like an istagosti format, because my brain didn't work quick enough to come up with any really things that I could fill a whole class up with. So I'm just going to try to make a point or two, and then I'm going to open it up for discussion. And we're going to do like an istagosti on the translation and the purport. Okay, so this is the purport. It is the duty of parents to hand over their daughters to suitable persons just befitting their family tradition in cleanliness, gentle behavior, wealth, social position, etc. Dakṣa was repentant that on the request of Brahmā, who was his father, he had handed over his daughter to a person who, according to his calculation, was nasty. He was so angry that he did not acknowledge that the request was from his father. Instead, he referred to Brahma as parameṣṭhī, the supreme teacher in the universe. Because of his temperament of gross anger, he was not even prepared to accept Brahmā as his father. In other words, he accused even Brahma of being less intelligent because he had advised Dakṣa to hand over his beautiful daughter to such a nasty fellow. In anger, one forgets everything. And thus Dakṣa, in anger, not only accused the great Lord Śiva, but criticized his own father, Lord Brahmā, for his not very astute advice that Dakṣa hand over his daughter to Lord Śiva. Om unmāda-nāthāya tasmai durhṛde namaha Shri Chaitanya manobhistam stapitam yena bhutale swayam rupa kadamayam dadati swaparantikam. So you notice in the translation, Prabhupada, he translates Lord Brahmā. He says, on the request of Lord Brahmā. But if you look at the Sanskrit, the actual name Lord Brahmā is not there. It's parameṣṭhinā, which means the supreme teacher, and Prabhupada explains that in the purport. So Dakṣa is so upset that he's not even referring to his father as his, by his name. He's referring to him as parameṣṭhinā, the supreme teacher. So that's that point. In the first line of the purport, Prabhupada says, it is the duty of the parents to hand over their daughters to suitable persons just befitting their family tradition in cleanliness, gentle behavior, wealth, and social position, etc. So one thought that came to my mind was that this is the better system. This is definitely what's being described here. That's the traditional system, and it was going on in human society up until maybe 100, 200 years ago. I'm from a Jewish background. Up until, as I say, 100 years ago, this is what you did. The parents kind of got together and they figured it out. And if somebody could come up with some more intelligent arguments or points, I would appreciate it. But I know that in gut feeling, intuitively, instinct, I know that's a better system. It's obviously, today it's not only followed, but if you present that to people, modern young people, they'll just go, you got to be kidding. The mindset is so much different now. But this is definitely the way it should be done. That the parents, because why? Because the parents are well-wishers. The parents know a lot more about life, and should by that time, than their children, and they're well-wishers, and they really want to see that their son or daughter is happy, so they're going to put a lot of energy into it. They're going to put a lot of effort into really trying to find a suitable person for their son or their daughter, and and also from the side of the son or the daughter, it saves you all the mental thing of if you're a girl trying to figure who or it's just like so much psychic energy goes into trying to find a partner, and it's degraded to the point where people aren't even interested in partners necessarily, like a life partner, but they're interested in people that could have sexual relationships with. It's just crazy. It's just it's a mess. And so this is actually the traditional system that's been going on in human society since time immemorial, and it's superior. And it's a shame that it's not happening today, or very much anyway, but that's on that point. And the only other point I wanted to make is that Dakṣa is, he's got an agenda. That's his problem, And if you have an agenda other than that you want to live your life in harmony, in alignment with the will of God, you're going to have a problem. It's just a matter of time. That's how, ideally how a human being should be thinking, should be desiring. Let me just live my life in harmony with the will of Krishna. Nadanam najanam nasundarim kavitam ba jagadishaya. Those two verses. And I have no desire to accumulate wealth. I have no desire to enjoy beautiful women. I have no desire for any number of followers. I just want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth, like that. If you have any other mentality, any other desire, as I said, it's just a matter of time. You're going to have a problem. And the Dakṣa he's the example. He has another agenda. He wants profit, adoration, and distinction. And as a result, this is what's happening. He's offending Lord Śiva, and in the process of blaspheming Lord Śiva, he's also offending his father, who he's so angry at, for making that recommendation that he marry his daughter to Lord Śiva, that he won't even refer to him by his name, and he's in trouble, right? And that's what happens when to the degree that we're kind of not aligned with, or trying to align ourselves with the will of Krishna, the will of God, to that degree we're going to run into some problems, So that's as many intelligent things as I could say right off the top of my head. Please, anybody like to say something? Doesn't have to be anything related to what I just said, but here it is. Everybody's contribution is welcome.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So, Dakṣa is a son of Lord Brahmā, right? So, and Lord Brahmā knows the Vedas very well. So, how is that possible that Dakṣa doesn't know that Śiva, the position of Lord Śiva, which is very exalted position, and he starts blaming or talking badly about Lord Śiva like an ordinary person? So, Dakṣa doesn't know the Vedas, he doesn't know tattva, Śiva tattva, Brahma tattva. How is that possible?
It's possible. Just like here in the Krishna conscious movement. People come to the movement, they heard of the whole entire philosophy from Prabhupada. They even had association with Prabhupada, but they chose to leave. That happened. People have their free will. They have a little bit of independence. This is the material world after all. Yeah, sure, it's a fact. You're right. Dakṣa's in a very elevated society there, He's got Lord Brahmā as a father. Even Lord Brahmā, told him all the glories of Lord Śiva previously. But free will. He's, this is the material world. He's in mayā. In other words, people, when you're here in the material world, if you're not a pure devotee, you can fall into mayā, and he's in mayā, and that's how he's able to. Yeah, go ahead.
We said that he was put into illusion by Lord Krishna, or he fell into mayā by just.
It's not presented. It's not like. What will be the example of that? Somebody who's put into illusions or something could happen. What's the classic example? Arjuna, yeah, thank you. Or Maharaj Pariksit. Those are the classic examples. They were put into illusions so that the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita could be spoken. But I've never heard that presented in Prabhupada's purports about this pastime. Yeah, Satī?
Also, what I understood is that, yeah, they were familiar with Dharma, but sometimes, there's some misunderstanding about there is a Nitya Dharma and Parameṣṭhī Dharma. Nitya Dharma, the highest Dharma with elevated principles to bring you back to Godhead. And some other ones, they know the Dharma that is within the social structure here, what we follow, the codes, moral, ethicals, and things like that. And that might also happen. They're more concerned, like a lot of people, about how you do things here and behave properly, but they still neglecting Nitya Dharma. So as far as Dakṣa is concerned, I was thinking that he was overcome with pride and anger, anger. So when you get angry, you get blinded. Even if you are the most knowledgeable person, you still can't control anger. Greed, lust, and anger can take you to hell. Bhagavad Gita mentions that. And a different point now, in the beginning also, you were mentioning about just about few years ago in your Jewish tradition.
100 years ago. 100 years ago.
So 100 years. That also was the culture in different places. Like I'm come from the Spanish, Mexican background. We had that. The girls, they would never mess around with anybody. The parents would arrange. Everything was there, and they were not familiar with Vedic culture, but it was just there. And I was just listening to Prabhupada's lecture this morning. It just came out. I was not planning. And then he started mentioning about his life. And he mentions that his sisters were married. One was 9, the other one was 11, and the other one's 12. And he even mentioned that when the one was 12, the mother was already in anxiety, and he mentions to the father, the wife mentions, if you don't marry her, I'm going to commit a suicide. I'm going to go and drown in the Ganges. And he himself, Srila Prabhupada mentions that he married his wife when she was 14. She was 14. So another thought that came to my mind is that the parents, it's a big responsibility for them, but there's also a catch. They have to be familiar with the culture, if they're not, like right now, nowadays, the parents, they don't have the culture, the knowledge, the tradition is lost, and they don't know how to guide their teenagers. And I speak by experience because I have family members far away I have many nephews, like 40 or 50 nephews, and they all have issues with this, with the family. They just let them go and do whatever they want. Boyfriend, girlfriends, I ask for what is my niece? Oh, they are in Vallarta, they're having a good time with the boyfriends, and So it's very common now. They're not educated, they don't have the culture, they don't know what Dharma is. So the parents have to have also that qualification. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yeah, Shamchandra.
So here in this verse, basically Dakṣa is finding fault in Śiva, and in this verse we also see him finding fault in Lord Brahmā also. I mean, apparently it seems to be, there is some reasoning behind such finding fault. There is one saying in my native language that it basically says that those who got jaundice, those who have jaundice disease, jaundice, they see everything yellow. It's not yellow, but because they are diseased, they see everything yellow, right? So similarly, when Dakṣa is finding faults, usually when people find faults in other people, most of the times it's their own fault, which they are seeing as a reflection in others. It's not that Śiva is not unclean, right? It's not that Brahma has done some mistake. It's just the consciousness of Dakṣa, which is polluted, that kind of covering or basically reflecting himself in Śiva or Brahma, but actually it's his own fault. Daksha's lacking what he's seeing in Śiva. This is just a human psychology, right? I mean, what you see in others is actually not others' faults, but your own fault you're seeing in others.
Right, that's an interesting point. Anybody else have anything? Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I was thinking about what the purport says that when one gets angry, like one forgets everything. So I want to know, like, how can we work out this, like, as devotee, like, if we get into an anger situation or something, how can we, like, get out of it as quickly as we can?
Yeah. Well, in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, there's a couple of verses. It goes, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsam Sangat Dhyayato Vishaya Pumsam Sangat Sangat. Yeah. Okay. Give me the whole verse. Jayato Vishayam Pumsam Sangat something Pajayate. I can't remember now. Right, but I say by contemplating the objects of the senses, one develops attachment. From such attachment, lust develops. From lust, anger arises. So you got to nip it in the bud, right? Or if it's already at that point where you're at the anger, just you got to get focused back on Krishna. That's what those verses are saying. That it starts with contemplating the objects of the senses, and then you become attached, and as you desire, and then when that desire leaves out frustrated, you become frustrated, and then that frustration is expressed as anger. So you got to just take it back to Krishna. If you're feeling angry, you want a practical advice, I would say sit down and listen to a Prabhupada lecture, or 2, or 3, or 4, or 5, until you don't feel, because that'll purify your conscience. You chant Hare Krishna, do something totally Krishna conscious, devotional activity, and that's the best bet, and then you purify your consciousness, and your perspective will change, and it should work. Go ahead.
This is not for us being conditioned, but there is a place for anger, to how anger can be utilized in the service of Krishna, such as Lord Hanuman and Arjuna, and many other ones like that. In our case, we're not at that level.
Yeah, we're not like pacifists, but the anger has to be expressed in an appropriate way, in an appropriate time. But if you're feeling angry towards devotees or something like that, and you know that this is not appropriate, just do something, get absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Listen to a lecture, eat some prasadam, whatever. Do something Krishna conscious to change your consciousness. Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I heard a lecture from Keshava Swami, and someone asked him this question, like, which one is better, love marriages or arranged marriages? And then he said, well, are people happy in love marriages? And then someone asked him a question, they said, well, no, sometimes people aren't happy in the love marriages. And, okay, are people happy always in arranged marriages? And he said, no, sometimes they're not happy. So, yeah, the point is that love marriages, they don't really actually bring that kind of satisfaction. The way that, sorry, I'm having a hard time expressing this. But yeah, the whole point is that it's a better system having it arranged, because you're attracted to a person, it's a temporary attraction, and you think that it's going to be such a nice relationship, but it can end in divorce or whatever anyways. I forgot the other point I was going to say. Here you go, Kircho Gopinath.
Yeah, go ahead.
But
Rabindranath will be next.
Oh, sorry.
But you're on the same point, and then Rabindranath. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, just on that similar point, just that benefit of having an outside entity helping you make that decision. Because if it's just you between a person, it's very simple. It's just based on lust, and it's just like the heat of the moment, and it's just sexual attraction pretty much, which is, like you mentioned, is temporary. But if you have someone who's not implicated in the emotions and the lust which is involved, and they can, have a more logical path of decision making, there's an inverse reaction between, emotions and logic. So someone who's just like really desirous and involved or not able to really see into the future. So being able to place such a big decision upon seniors, authorities, elders who are in their right minds, that's like the whole point of it, is that you have someone they don't have a stake in it, so they can think logically.
Right. Well, Rabindranath. Need more battery?
It was mentioned in the purport how the family, the couple should have, like, if they have the same kind of wealth like that. And I was thinking that this refers to the Vaishyas and the Kshatriyas, because the Brahmanas, they don't have any wealth. Just like we see the example of Devahudi and Kadamba Muni. Kadamba Muni didn't have any wealth at all. He was just simply living in the forest like that. And a Brahmana also, he has no wealth. It probably gives example that a Brahmana gets a lakh of rupees in the morning time. By the evening time, he was a poor man because he distributes all his wealth. And Srila Prabhupada also mentioned how the Sudra class, they don't have any money either. They should just Prabhupada said they should just keep given a little pocket change, and that's it. But the Vaishyas and the Kshatriyas, they're the ones that have wealth. And it's also brought up, Sahadeva explained how, there's love marriages and arranged marriages. And as far as love marriages go, there was one conversation, I think it was with Tamal Krishna, it was on a tape, Tamal Krishna and Prabhupada. And Tamal was saying, oh, Prabhupada, she doesn't want to marry this devotee because of bodily concept like that. I guess she didn't think he was very attractive or whatever like that. In other words, he was like thinking, well, she just shouldn't marry him because he's a devotee. And Prabhupada said, no, that you have to take that in consideration. Otherwise, if you're not in the bodily concept of life, then you don't want to get married anyway, But if you have some bodily conception, of course you have to take that in consideration.
Good point. That's really interesting. And that was Prabhupada saying that. Good. I think you wanted to say something? Let me read the sentence again. So it says, it is the duty of the parents to hand over their daughters to suitable persons, just befitting their family tradition in cleanliness, gentle behavior, wealth, and social position, etc. Period. That was the sentence again. Okay, go ahead.
I was going to mention, similarly to what all the devotees are already mentioning about, love marriages won't work. Generally, the Western culture is that you fall in love first, and then you marry, and then it turns out to be divorce or anything could come up. There's no sense of duty there. But in the more traditional scenarios, it was more you marry, and then out of that duty, then affection naturally rises out of that because you're serving each other and Krishna. But nowadays it's the complete opposite, so that's why it doesn't work out.
Right.
So.
Okay. Other comments? Yeah, Mata. Bhakti and Jasmine. Okay.
Hello? Okay, I get that both of them make sense, that in everything in life you have, ups and downs and declines, so love marriages or arranged marriages can be the same. But I feel like you should at least like the person, like to be around the person. Because what if you get arranged marriage with somebody that you have no compatibility with, and that's a life commitment. So you should have a say in it a little bit. And sometimes there's arranged marriages where little girls get arranged with older men, and it might not be fair to that child either. I feel like there should be, of course, the parents' approval, and obviously not mindlessly in lust, but there should be a part of the person's choice to get to choose their life partner,
Yeah, I know some, I won't mention names, but there's some older couples here in our community. A lot of times I ask my friends, they're my friends, was your marriage an arranged marriage, or, how did it happen? And this one particular couple I have in mind, they were telling me that, the parents arranged, but then they they introduced each other. They introduced the boy and the girl to each other, and then they talked, and they decided whether they felt, like something would work or not.
That makes
more
sense.
So they had some say in it.
Yeah.
The parents did arrange, but then they also were involved in the decision-making process.
Yeah.
And they're still together today, and they're both devotees, and they're doing very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they get to decide, because also sometimes parents have different ideas. Like maybe some parents want them to just marry somebody rich, it doesn't matter their character. Or some parents want somebody that's good looking, doesn't matter anything else,
Yeah.
So the mentality of the parents might not be as mature as the person who's, choosing the partner.
Yeah, you just triggered off a memory. I don't know, probably none of you know him, but Gopi Chand Induja. You're familiar? Yeah. So he just passed away last couple of days. He had a son, and his son fell in love with a girl. I can't remember. She wasn't Indian, and she wasn't, part of the same kind of thing. Anyway, they didn't approve of it, and they were adamantly against that marriage. And but he was really attached. He wound up in frustration and whatever. He committed suicide. And of course they weren't very happy about that. So that was like an extreme example of the parents not being sensitive to the feelings or the desires of their offspring, and that was a horrible outcome. And so it's definitely something's a good idea. So who had their hand up next? Well, I want to take this and give everybody a chance to speak. Did you want to say something, Krishna Kumar? Okay.
So
Sachi and then
I
Acharya.
just want to mention that in regard.
Please, everybody, this is a family, so don't feel shy. Rather than leave, contribute. We want to hear what you have to say. Okay, everybody's contribution is welcome and valued. Thank you.
Also adding to the point is that the important thing that there was a way to do it, like the astrology. So if you neglect that, it's not like you're just, get together and that's it. No. Astrology has to be there because that was a big part of it, right? Characters, everything is there. So the parents actually, when they're trained, again, we come back to the point, if the parents are well educated or they are pious enough, and they are ultimately looking for the ultimate benefit. Those parents who are more advanced actually want the ultimate benefit of their children. Just, this is your last birth, you're going back to Godhead. That's the topmost. The other ones, you like the boy, she likes, that's different. It's like Naimitika Dharma. Nitya Dharma is above all this. So astrology has to be there, counseling.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. Because I've seen debates of arguing back and forth, and everybody picks in deficiency in, like, if there's arranged marriage, they find all the faults, but that are happening now. They are not familiar with arranged marriage from, like, let's say 200, 300, 400 years ago, and there were some problems too. But in general, it works. You
use that phrase "nitya dharma" now a few times, and when you said it just triggered off the thought in my mind. Bhagavad Gita 1866, Krishna says, "Sarva dhammam parityajya," abandon all varieties of religion. This has been mentioned in other classes, but that's what Krishna's talking about there. He's, that doesn't, when you hear that at first, you think, "Whoa, that doesn't make any sense." God's saying abandon religion. What he's really saying is abandon these not unitya dharmas, these materialistic dharmas, like the Dharma Shastras, which are talking about giving people direction, how to improve their life and on the material platform. But what Krishna's saying there is, no, forget about that stuff, just surrender to me. That's the real dharma. It's not like he's really saying forget about dharmas, just forget about the materialistic dharmas and just be engaged in devotional service.
And that was actually the whole point in the Mahabharata in the beginning. Arjuna's argument with Krishna was that, we're going to kill, all my cousins, and all the women will be bereft of husbands.
Which is a good argument, right?
Yeah, good argument.
On a material platform.
And King Yudhishthira, after the war of Kurukshetra, was not happy also because there were so many widows, and the widows cannot get married at that time. They can't get married again.
Right.
So he was, all those arguments about that.
Yeah.
Dharma.
Hare Krishna. When I read the purports, it's the purpose of marriage is to raise Krishna conscious children. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So is this marriages where I guess partners agree not to have children, was that something Srila Prabhupada had a conversation about, or is it a compromise, or is it something that is recommended? What is how do we understand that?
I can't remember, aside from a statement from Chanakya Pandit that maybe that Prabhupada quoted, it's kind of pointless, marriage if there's no children but I can't remember exactly how it goes. Can anybody remember anything Prabhupada said? Rabindranath. Let's hear about that.
This is a letter Srila Prabhupada wrote to Donavir when he was a householder. He was thinking of, I think it was 1972, he was thinking of taking sannyas, and Prabhupada said, this is not a good thing to do, that devotees get married and they immediately want to leave their wife and take sannyas. He said, the purpose of householder life is to have children, otherwise, why take the botheration of getting married? So that was what Prabhupada said, why take the botheration of getting married if you're not going to have children? That's the purpose of householder life.
Yeah. Well, I just was listening to actually a lecture, just come to think of it, last night. It was Prabhupada was here in 1971, and it was a lecture he gave at the wedding of Harinam and Prabhavati. And he was saying, okay, now you're married, you should have children, and if you can bring Krishna conscious children into the world, have hundreds. If you can't, then if you're going to, but don't produce children like cats and dogs. That was like a favorite expression of his. We don't want offspring like cats and dogs, but if you can produce Krishna conscious children, yeah. So he was encouraging. He was encouraging them. Okay, you're married, now produce Krishna conscious children. That's the duty. That's the idea. Yeah.
In our movement, there are mature devotees that maybe have a companion or get married, and then they have, like, you could say maybe spiritual children, like disciples. Is that sort of a progressive step?
Say it again.
There are mature devotees in our movement that are male and female, they become companions or get married, and they don't have like biological children, but they have like spiritual children. Is that a progressive step?
I think so. I think that's really good, because that's like the Nitya Dharma kind of, Lord Chaitanya said, Yade deke tare kaha Krishna Badesh Amada Agaya Guruhana Tare Desh. So basically, in effect, they're becoming spiritual masters. They're taking younger devotees under their wing and giving them guidance. That's, in some sense, that's better. Because, you have biological children, and they may or may not become devotees, despite your best efforts. Of course, we should make our best efforts. But, when older devotees give guidance to younger devotees who are wanting it, they need it and they want it, that's very good. I think that's really exemplary. That's my feeling. Yeah.
So the main point about the topic of when it comes to women also is that mainly than anything else, Prabhupada always mentioned that they should be protected. Protection is like
correct.
The front line. And then he mentioned from childhood, from the father, and then the husband, then the son, if they have a son. If they don't have a son, the spiritual master. But another thought that came to my mind was also that God, my brain. Oh yeah, that when actually there was a tape I was listening to Prabhupada yesterday where he was mentioning that a lot of times somehow or other there's more women than men, and they need to be protected and married when they're in the age of marriage. That even polygamy was allowed in the Vedic culture, was allowed. And then he gave the example, many kshatriyas married many women, and qualified brahmanas too. Not for, like the idea in the Western world, when they hear polygamy, immediately, because they're thinking in just how to enjoy the senses, how to exploit another woman. But actually, that's not the point. The point is protection, how to protect properly.
Really good point. But when it was pointed out to Prabhupada, though, that in this country they didn't permit that, legally, and Prabhupada said, oh, then don't do it.
Yeah. They told him no.
But in principle, it's for the reason you stated, protection, it is part of the Vedic culture. Okay, so it's 8:35. Did anybody who already hasn't spoken would like to say something? Okay. Anybody? Okay. We'll let Acharya Narottam have the final.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, there were so many good points, but we see in our ISKCON society that arranged marriage or loving marriage sometimes don't work either, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I was thinking astrology actually plays a very important role, because it will tell the compatibility of both persons, if they are matching or not matching. My question to you is, so finally, what is the last word of Prabhupada in terms of polygamy? Is in ISKCON it should be allowing or not? What Prabhupada said about it?
Not allowed. At least not here in America, for sure, because it's against the law. Maybe in some other country.
But what about if someone is a Krishna devotee in India? So is that...
Well, there's a devotee, Vasudeva. He was the person who started, he was very instrumental in developing Krishna consciousness in Fiji, Vasudeva. And Punja. So he had 2 wives. And, Prabhupada I never remember hearing anything Prabhupada said critical about that. I think it's in a culture where it's allowed, in a country where it's not against the law. As I mentioned, it's a Vedic principle. So, and if it's done for the purpose of protection, yeah. But here, when they brought it Prabhupada's attention that here in America it's against the law, Prabhupada said, "Oh, then forget it." Yeah. But but Prabhupada, I'll just throw this. Initially, Satsvarup made this observation, Satsvarup Maharaj, that initially Prabhupada was encouraging marriages. He was even arranging them. Then the second stage was he stopped arranging them because he saw that even some that he arranged didn't work. But he was definitely he said, anybody wants to get married, but you have to take responsibility. Can't expect the temple to support you. But then eventually, his final position was men are good, women are good, together the bad. He wasn't very optimistic, unfortunately, towards the end there. But anyway, main thing is try to be Krishna conscious and just do the best we can as far as the rest of it goes. Okay, thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.